Okay, picture this. You pick up your phone and boom, in a fraction of a single second, the screen lights up and unlocks. It feels like magic, right? But the craziest part isn't even the speed. It's the fact that if you try to hold up a printed 8 by 10 glossy photo of your own face to the camera, the screen just stays locked with a firm red X. It instantly rejects photos, it rejects really good professional masks, it even completely shuts down 3D printed heads modeled exactly from your own face.
So how does a basic piece of glass figure all that out so incredibly fast? Well, the secret is that your phone isn't really looking at you in the way you might think. Instead of just snapping a traditional picture, it's actually mapping you. And it's doing this in 3 full dimensions, using invisible infrared light.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Layer 1, the invisible infrared grid. The first real surprise here is that your regular selfie camera actually takes a total backseat during this highly secure unlock process. The real heavy lifting, that happens inside what's called a true depth camera system. If you look really closely at your device, you'll see a cutout or a little notch at the top of the screen. Packed meticulously inside that tiny space is a highly sophisticated cluster of sensors. And the absolute star of the show in there is a small but mighty component known as the dot projector. When you wake your phone up, this dot projector instantly fires an astonishing number of invisible dots right onto your face. Over 30,000 of them, to be exact. 30,000 invisible infrared dots projecting outward in this dense grid. Because they're infrared, they are completely invisible to the human eye. But to the sensor system right there in your phone, your face suddenly lights up like a highly detailed constellation. And these dots don't just land randomly either. Think about your own face for a second. They bunch up closely around the tip of your nose, they spread out smoothly across the flatter surface of your forehead, and they curve precisely around your cheekbones. A dedicated infrared camera inside that exact same notch reads exactly how this pattern of dots bends and stretches. It then takes that data and reconstructs it into a highly detailed 3D wireframe mesh. It's basically building a mathematical model of your face's exact geometry. It's not a photo, it's a shape. And this brilliantly illustrates our next point. Layer 2, geometry over imagery. This specific reliance on spatial depth is exactly why a printed picture just fails so miserably. Think about what happens with a real 3D face versus a flat 2D photo. A photo, no matter how crisp or high resolution it is, literally has zero depth. So when those 30,000 infrared dots hit a printed picture, they just land in a uniform, completely flat grid. There is no real 3D structure there to bend the light. But a real face? A real face has profound depth. You've got a nose that projects forward, eye sockets that recede into your skull, and cheekbones with actual physical curvature. The infrared dot pattern only makes geometric sense to the system when it wraps around a real 3-dimensional object. It really all comes down to this one key realization from the engineers. That single design choice, using depth instead of a flat image, is what kills most photo-based spoofing attempts before they even start. By simply ignoring what the face roughly looks like in a flat image and focusing entirely on its physical, spatial depth, this elegant bit of engineering instantly defeats the most common way bad actors try to break into phones. Which brings us to the next part of the puzzle, Layer 3, the human element and security. Okay, so we have the 3D shape mapped out, but there is a huge human element we have to consider here. What is actually stopping someone from just holding your phone up to your face while you're fast asleep on the couch? Well, the answer is this brilliant secondary layer that most people don't even realize is happening, attention detection. The system doesn't just scan your static facial geometry, it actively checks the state of your eyes. It verifies whether your eyes are open and if you're actually looking directly at the screen. If your eyes are closed, if you're looking away, or if the sensors just can't get a clear, unobstructed read on your gaze, the lock icon stays firmly shut. No matter how perfectly accurate that 3D face map is, without your active attention, the system absolutely will not let anyone in. So what exactly happens to all this wildly complex data once it's gathered? Well, the system takes your detailed 3D map, combines it with that attention check data, and runs the whole shebang through a small onboard neural network. This neural network basically acts as a translator, converting everything into what we call a mathematical signature. It's fascinating, actually. Think of it as a highly encrypted, completely unique formula that perfectly represents your facial structure and your active presence. And I cannot stress this enough. This is a massive deal for your privacy. It's absolutely crucial to understand that this mathematical signature is processed entirely by a dedicated, highly secure chip located right inside your phone. This chip is physically and digitally isolated from the rest of your phone's regular operating system. Your actual face image is never stored anywhere on the device. It's never uploaded to the cloud, and it is never, ever sent to an external server. If you were ever worried someone was building a database of your face from your phone, this isolated chip is exactly why you don't have to be. Your sensitive biometric data stays locked tightly inside that one isolated chip exclusively on that one specific device.
So the crucial point is, how does this hold up against advanced threats? Let's look at the ultimate test: masks and deepfakes.
How does this system fare when people bring out the heavy artillery? I mean, people have definitely tried some Mission Impossible-style tricks to beat this. Professional silicone masks that look unbelievably realistic to the naked eye, 3D printed skulls, even specialized makeup designed specifically to trick infrared sensors. But they almost always fail. Why? Because the system isn't just checking if something looks roughly like a face. It's checking dozens of highly specific depth measurements against a strictly stored model. And even if you manage to get the shape perfectly right, artificial materials like silicone or 3D printed plastic rarely replicate the exact infrared reflectivity and the intricate microtexture of real living human skin. The infrared sensors can literally detect the physical difference between a living person and a rubber mask.
And then, of course, we have deepfakes, which operate on a totally different threat model. Deepfakes are terrifyingly good at fooling traditional 2D video verification systems. If you're on a Zoom call or passing an online ID check, a good deepfake can easily trick a standard camera. But to an infrared sensor, a deepfake is literally just a flat piece of glass playing a video. A true depth style system requires a physical infrared depth pattern to unlock. A deepfake physically cannot generate real 3D infrared depth for the sensor to read. It's just a fundamental limitation. Deepfake video keeps getting more and more convincing everywhere else, but when faced with an infrared depth sensor, it instantly hits a brick wall.
Which leads us to our conclusion: elegant engineering. When you realize all of this remarkably elegant engineering is literally hiding in plain sight behind a tiny 5mm notch at the top of your screen, it really is wild. Let's do a rapid recap of the entire unlock pipeline. First, an invisible infrared laser grid projects 30,000 dots onto you. Second, an infrared camera instantly creates a real-time 3D reconstruction of your facial geometry. Third, the system performs a rigid attention and gaze check to ensure you're awake and actively looking at the device. And fourth, all of that data is compiled into a mathematical signature and validated inside a completely isolated secure chip. And the most mind-blowing part of all of this? Every single one of these complex, high-security steps happens locally, working perfectly together in under a single second.
It really does make you appreciate the invisible, lightning-fast tech we casually carry around in our pockets every single day. But, that leaves us with a highly provocative question for our next explainer. While 3D face scanning has proven incredibly robust against flat images and deepfakes, what about the other biometric we rely on? What happens when the technology designed to fake your fingerprints finally catches up? Make sure to subscribe, because next time we're going to crack open exactly how under-screen fingerprint sensors work, and we'll reveal why some of them are way, way easier to fool than others. You definitely won't want to miss it.